Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a lovely classical stream, our final stream of 2015, and given this current release, I think you all will agree we are going out with a bang, so welcome aboard. We'll be getting started shortly. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and once again, just before we start, I just want to make sure that the sound and everything is working okay. So before I get into my usual commentary, just any feedback that any of you can provide to make sure that all the sound is working well will be most helpful. And let me just make a quick couple of adjustments here. Just a moment. I kind of want to leave that Mozart playing in the background throughout the stream. So I don't know if the sound of the helicopter has taken over the sound of the music or not. So if you guys just want to kind of give me a little bit of a heads up and let me know if that's working out or not. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get started. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is Mozart. That's right. That is the music you are currently listening to in the background, which of course sets the perfect atmosphere for the airport that we are heading out to this morning. It is Mozart, Salzburg from Digital Design. I can't tell you just how excited I am to see this developer, and I won't try to pronounce his name. I should have asked him, and I do believe the developer is with us this morning in the chat. I don't think I've seen him pop up just yet, but hopefully, as I throw some questions out there throughout this morning's stream, he'll come on and answer any questions for us. I went into overspeed with the helicopter not paying attention, and now we head toward the ground. Sorry about that. What is a stream without a crash? Yes, of course. There it is. Let's get it out of the way. There we go. It's going to keep doing that until I get out of overspeed. Come on, get out of the overspeed there. Thank you. And I should have checked FSU IPC before I started. Much apologies. You guys know how these streams usually work out. Oh, that's not good. Looks like my FSU IPC doesn't want to work today. Let's try that one more time. Oh well, I'm not going to worry about it. Alright folks, so once again, yes, it is Mozart from Digital Design, and this is the first scenery, to my knowledge, that this developer has delivered in Western Europe. We can definitely go back and take a look at some of the earlier projects that he's done, and I remember when I first came across this developer, it was actually with the Yekaterinburg scenery, which was released on Aerosoft several years ago. And I have to tell you, that scenery is just amazing. It is an amazing scenery. Oh my goodness, I can't seem to get this helicopter under control today. This is not one of those days. The gear's not working. You know what it is? I think my throttle isn't working. That's the problem. I'm not getting any response from my throttle. Okay, well at least we figured that out. Alright folks, give me a minute. Here we go. This is starting off early already. I need to reset my throttle. I couldn't figure out what was going on there. No gear, overspeed. Hang on. Alright, and just double checking that the sound is okay as well. Alright, let's do this again. Let's see, is that collective moving there? Yeah, it's moving. Okay, hopefully we got that under control. I still don't have my gear yet, though. It's funny how things don't work whenever I try to do the stream. That's very annoying. Just making our way through Open LC Europe here as we start to approach the airport scenery area. Sorry for the disaster stream this morning. Never fails. But nevertheless, yes, Yekaterinburg was the first I had heard of this developer, and I remember the quality of that airport was just so impressive and very well done. And the developer is there in the chat as well, and he's just said hello. And if you can, give me just a little bit of an idea of how to pronounce your name properly. I want to say it's Evgeny, but I'm probably getting that very much wrong. If you could, just to make sure I pronounce your name properly. But if any of you guys have any questions for him, and as I throw out some questions for him during the stream, I'm sure he'll answer them in the chat, and then I'll try to go through and answer any responses that he gives us, so that way anyone watching on YouTube later can kind of hear a little bit of the kind of ad hoc interview. But yes, Yekaterinburg, and I was so impressed with that airport that I wrote a very extensive review on it. And this was back in FS9. There is an FSX version that works well with P3D. And the only thing I didn't like about that scenery was that it was just so remote. It was way out in the middle of nowhere, Russia. And even on a flight from Moscow, it's quite a trek getting way out there. But from my first impression of that scenery, I just knew immediately right away that this was a developer with a lot of talent. Unfortunately, I couldn't find his name anywhere, and I don't remember if it was in the product manual or not. But basically, I went on a mad tear trying to find out who is this guy, because there's no way that this Yekaterinburg project is the first project he's ever done. There's just no way. He had to have done something else in the past. And so after some searching around, I found out that he was very, very active on the AvSim. I don't know if it's SimRussia or the avsim.ru websites or SimFlight Russia, or one of those Russian websites. But as it turned out, he had a number of freeware products that he had done over the years. So I went in and started just installing a lot of his old freeware projects, and even those were like super, super good. And so then all of a sudden, I was just kind of on this mad tear of looking for quality Russian sceneries. And the interesting thing about just about every Russian scenery that's ever happened before this explosion over the last couple of years of payware sceneries is you've had just thousands of like freeware that are like super, super high quality. That's even far better than a lot of the freeware that we get in Western Europe and US and the rest of the world. I mean, I think as far as freeware goes, I think Russia's always had the best quality-wise, but maybe it just wasn't enough to justify charging people for it. But, I mean, really, really, really good. So I've been keeping a lot of those freeware Russian sceneries and Eastern European sceneries, and so this guy was one of those developers, and I'm assuming that Yekaterinburg was the first payware scenery, again released through Aerosoft, and after that he went on and released a few other sceneries, one most notably being St. Petersburg, which completely blew my mind. If you saw that stream, which is available, I'm not sure if the audio works though. I had a problem with Twitch and the audio, so I'm not sure if, I think the first 20 minutes is there's no sound, but I think it had to do with the song or something I used, but just a terrific, amazing scenery. So definitely, if you haven't checked out that St. Petersburg, definitely go back and take a look at that that stream and pick up a copy of that, because I'm telling you, it is an incredible release. It really, truly is. And you will not be disappointed with it. And between the three Russian designers, the three biggies now, the other one being M Design, who made that impressive, very impressive Domodedovo, which I loved, and I did a stream on that one as well, so make sure you go back and take a look at that one. And most recently is a developer known as Just Sim, and he's been working with Evgeny as well on some projects, and he just released, what's the name of it? I can't pronounce it. I'm not going to even try to pronounce it, but I wrote a first look article on that one as well that's now available. Another Russian scenery, payware, super high quality. And if it's one thing that all of these developers sort of have in common, is the fact that they do pay very, very close attention to detail. And that's one of the things that I always point out in all of my streams, is how good is the detail, because that's where you're going to separate the men from the boys. That's when you're going to discover which developers are the ones that are really in it for the passion and which developers are in it for the money. And one thing I can tell you is that not only are these developers not in it for the money, just given all of the freeware that they've released over the years, but they are definitely passionate about the work that they do, and it clearly shows in all of the works that they do. Right now, we're just flying over the city of Salzburg here and taking a look at some of the nearby local landmarks. As you can see, the scenery is complete with photoreal texture, hand-placed autogen, and many landmarks as well. Thinking back on that, both the St. Petersburg scenery and the Ekaterinburg, one of the things included in both those sceneries is quite a large coverage area. And this developer is very well known for having these immense coverage areas to accompany his airport projects. And certainly Salzburg is no exception. I should also note that this is prepared version 3.1. I actually went in and put in the update last night. How happy am I that in order to upgrade to the different versions of prepared, you no longer have to uninstall and reinstall the simulator from scratch. That's a great thing about it. It's just a client file. You uninstall the current client, install the next client, and all of your aircraft scenery settings, everything stays in place. So I was very, very happy that I didn't have to reinstall everything. So if you're currently using prepared version 3 and waiting for 3.1, that is something you can go ahead and do, and feel free. You don't have to worry about your sceneries at all. Taking a look, there are some floating houses here. I think a few people mentioned who purchased it this morning that rocketed that thing up to #1 on SimMarket in like 30 minutes. And I've heard from some people already that they're already blowing down the servers and some people are not able to download. So just stick in there. I did hear already from some people that they had some floating autogen. Now, I should mention that my version that I have here is not the full release candidate. So you may notice a couple of errors in there, a couple of floating houses, things like that. So it could be the version that I have. It is possible, but I think I heard a few people had some issues as well. So one thing that the developer did remind me of earlier is make sure you read the manual. So I will extend those sentiments. Do ensure that you read the manual to make sure that everything is installed and working properly. Now, thinking back on our good friends Giani and his G-Team scenery design, Giani team, and for those of you who do not know who Giani is a developer who has been releasing, and I call it freeware, but one day he corrected me a few years ago, and he said, it's not freeware, it's donationware. So, okay, I'll call it donationware. But him and his team delivered some very, very impressive donationwares back in the day, especially in the mid days of FS9. They delivered Klagenfurt and, of course, Salzburg as well. And both Salzburg and Klagenfurt are still some of my favorite destinations in the whole of Europe. And his freeware or donationware versions kept me busy for a very, very, very long time. As it pertained to Innsbruck, Aerosoft had a version of Innsbruck in one of their German airports packages. If you remember back in those early days of FS9, the German airports team delivered a lot of airport packages for Europe, but in one of those particular packages, they did extend into both Switzerland and Austria with, I believe it was Innsbruck, and there was one in Switzerland. I think it was Alterhain. I can't pronounce, I don't think I'm pronouncing it properly, but small Swiss airfield. And that essentially rounded up my my Austrian sceneries. Of course, we have Fly Tampa Vienna that's been around forever. And even though it's been around for a long time, the Fly Tampa teams have been really good at going back and updating it. And the most recent update, I believe, came this year, a little bit earlier this year. So that scenery, even though it's been released so long ago, has managed to keep itself very much relevant to its real-world counterpart. So if you bought it today, you would get it just as good as if it were released for the first time today. And that's one of the great things about Fly Tampa, is they continue to keep their older works up to date so that the products do not seem or feel old, but feel as recent as everything else getting released. So I enjoyed Giani's freeware versions of both Salzburg and Klagenfurt, and I do hope that at some point someone goes back and does a new version of Klagenfurt, because again, that's one of my favorite airports, and I'd like to see someone go back in and do that. I think someone did release an FSX version of a freeware of Klagenfurt that wasn't part of Giani's team, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm still a little bit fuzzy on that. But I think there is one out there somewhere. But maybe a developer will go in and do a version of it. It's a very small airport, probably wouldn't take too long to do. But it has very, very nice scenic approaches, which, if you know anything about me, I love a good scenic approach. Just getting a little bit lower in altitude here so we can take a look at some of these very, very beautiful Austrian buildings here. And some of the churches as well as the castle up on the mountain there. You can't see any of this from the airport, so unless you're a rotorhead like me, or perhaps if you have a boat, you can come in and enjoy these parts of the scenery as well. Then Giani and his team went in and decided they were going to start on their very first payware scenery. That payware scenery, of course, was Innsbruck. And I have to say, at the time it was released, it was quite a feat for Giani and his team. Covering the airport and the entire city of Innsbruck, it was known as Approaching Innsbruck for its massively beautiful approaches into the airport over the city. Unfortunately, the scenery is showing its age and does not have complete compatibility with Prepared. So when you approach the airport in Prepared, one of the things you're going to notice is that most of the city buildings are non-existent, and I don't think an update is going to come from Giani for that project. Unfortunately, he's been a bit quiet lately. Back in 2012, he did announce that he was moving on after the release of Innsbruck, that he would be working on Salzburg. Some initial product previews surfaced on the Aerosoft forums, and then things kind of went dark. Giani resurfaced a couple of times, or a few times, to ensure us all that he was still busy working. But I did get an email from someone who knows him fairly well and stated that he was going through some personal issues, and that, of course, was having an impact on development. Since then, we really haven't heard anything concrete from Giani, unfortunately. So I don't really know if the scenery is still progressing or if it has halted as a result of real life. And unfortunately, real life does happen. And of course, we can't hold that against any developer when that happens. But communication is definitely key, especially to your fans who are waiting. We haven't gotten much communication on that project, unfortunately, and I believe the developer of this particular project started to sense that after a couple of years of pretty much silence. This would be his first Western European scenery. And I gotta tell you, excellent choice. Excellent, excellent choice. Now, one of the things that I really loved about the Innsbruck scenery from G-Team was the fact that it had incorporated the AES light. So you had all the cars going back and forth on the streets, but even more notably, you had the trains that went back and forth as well. And the trains were a lot of fun. Well, I think I've hit a crash. It looks like I have. It looks like I've crashed. You know, it's funny. Only when I'm broadcasting do I have crashes in the scenery, but it looks like I have crashed. So bear with me, folks. I'm going to have to restart Prepared and continue on. So this is probably going to take a minute or two. So please accept my apologies. Unfortunately, these streams do not always run as well as I would like. That's just one of the unfortunate things with streaming. For some reason, with Prepared, and of course because this is a new version of Prepared, there may be some incompatibilities with OBS as well. So again, do accept my apologies. I'm going to try to fix this as quickly as I can. Please stand by. You can enjoy that lovely Mozart music while I try to get this up and running here. And before our little crash, I noticed you guys are talking about performance and frame rates. I hadn't noticed any issues with the performance or the frame rates at all, so that's a good thing. Frame rates were average in the 40s. And I believe my AI traffic was set to 100% as well, so something worth mention there also. So just bear with me as I am relaunching Prepared. Shouldn't take too long, usually takes a couple of minutes. So if Evgeny is still there watching the stream and in the chat, one of my first questions for you would be, what was your first scenery release? Again, I believe you did start with a lot of freewares. What was that first freeware scenery released that came from you? And what year was that as well? That's actually another good question. Try to get a little bit of a background from our developer here. I know there's a little bit of a delay, so it may take a minute before his answer appears there in the chat. Alright, we're just reloading the scenery, so it should just be a couple minutes more. I'm not seeing any writing in the chat. I don't know if maybe my screen is frozen up here on my laptop. So if anyone is typing anything, I haven't seen anything pop up in quite a while, so I'm just going to refresh that. Okay, Tess, thank you. All right, 75% there. Apologies, folks. And I actually had a crash when I was at Tactic Gates Munich in that stream as well. Yeah, there's something about the broadcasting software that continues to cause that. So, unfortunately for you as a viewer, that's kind of a pain because you have to sit through this live, unfortunately, whereas on YouTube later on, you can go in and kind of fast forward through that. Okay, and it looks like we're sort of kind of back. Let's just try to get a little bit control over our helicopter here. I wonder if once again if my throttle still isn't working. This has happened a couple of times before. Come on, lift up. Thank you. Of all streams, of all the products, this has to be the one that just doesn't want to work out well for me. I do see there is one question there in the comment section where they're asking any experience how the scenery works with GEX and UTX. I couldn't tell you. I don't know what the percentages of people that are using those products. I think a lot of people are using FTX. And that seems to be the direction that the most people have gone in nowadays. So I don't know if, how many people are still using ground environment and ultimate terrain. I will say that they are certainly decent products, but certainly very much inferior to the Orbix variant of textures. So I couldn't tell you, but if anyone does have it, I'm sure they can respond on behalf of that. Just before the scenery cut out, one of the things that I was referring to was in Innsbruck, and actually I need to make one more quick adjustment here. Apologies, give me just a minute. I need to just double check here. Okay. So one of the things I loved about that particular scenery, wow, this is actually, I'm actually running ASN this time around, and certainly the visibility has dropped quite a bit. Was all those moving trains, and that's one of the things I loved about it. And the reason why I bring that part up is because In this particular scenery, there's, if you look at the photo reel, and I don't see it now, but there's an area where you have the main train station there and a lot of tracks running across, and I think this would have been an excellent opportunity to kind of show off a little bit of that, have those trains in it. One of the things I loved about that M-Design Domodedovo as well, we'll just turn off this weather here, it's kind of hard to see anything. And that was one of the things I loved about the Domodedovo scenery as well, was the fact that it had the animated train. So that is certainly one thing I think I would have added to this scenery. So just taking a look at some of the outlying areas here just surrounding the airport, making our rounds. And thank you. Someone's reminding me, Andre of Jessim as well, who released, oh, I don't know how you pronounce the name of that airport. He'll forgive me. So just taking a look at the entire coverage area that surrounds the airport. You can see here there's plenty of photoreal, and what's really important whenever you use photoreal is to make sure you put in the autogen and trees on top of it, and that's all been done. So you have that complete VFR experience, or IFR as well when you really think about it, when you fly in with your heavier aircraft. I did have a couple of terrain issues though, but you're going to have to make sure that you set your terrain mesh to, I believe it was 1 meter as it says in the manual there. Even though having done that, I still had a couple of issues, so again, I just want to raise that little bit of a disclaimer that mine's is kind of a pre-release version. So any discrepancies that you may see in this particular stream may not be your experience, just FYI. And I know Evgeny is in there somewhere, but he never answered my question in terms of what his first scenery release was. But he had done quite a few of them. But I think what really put him on the map, I think, for the rest of the world really was that St. Petersburg scenery. That was the one that I think really did it. And I think once people really saw what he could do with St. Petersburg, it was no question for anyone once the initial Salzburg previews were released. And I must tell you that the numbers on ADX skyrocketed once those previews first popped up. So clearly a great many of you are really excited about this airport. And there's our IKEA again. I always like to point out IKEA whenever I see one in a scenery, because just about everywhere except for the States, there's usually an IKEA somewhere near an airport. So it's funny how many IKEAs I see popping up in different sceneries. And you can see now just flying down the approach. And just taking a look at some of the comments, one person says that this scenery is the highlight of anything that's been released in the last couple of weeks. Well, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the stream, I think this is the release that sends 2015 out with a bang, the last big release of 2015. Year before last, the last big release of 2015 was Oslo from Ireland. And he managed to squeeze that out like right in the last couple of days of, I believe that was 2013. Right before the new year, he managed to get that out. And I thought that was funny, because I didn't think he was going to make it, and then suddenly, boom, there it was. So I think every year there's always that one developer that just kind of squeezes the last biggie just before the end closes out, so they can have that final bragging right. But I will say this, though. Usually December is always a big month for releases, because it's Christmas time. Obviously, developers want to be able to get out and do their Christmas shopping as well. So usually around December, we start to see just a massive flow of releases. And if you go back and look at everything that was released this month, we had a lot of releases from different developers for December. But I guess it's sort of bittersweet because also that's the time starting about a week before Black Friday when all the sales start to hit. So then people have kind of a difficult choice of deciding, do I get something new, wait to see what's going to come out, or start taking advantage of all these sales. So this time of year is usually when developers tend to clean up. And, so whoever is that last person who releases that last big scenery at the end of the year, they're the ones who sort of get the last laugh or the last cry, depending on whether or not anyone has any money by the end of the year. In this particular case, though, like I said, I think this thing is skyrocketed up to number one, I believe, just in a matter of hours on Sim Market. So, again, I've heard some people complain that they haven't been able to get it yet. So I'm sure there are people who are trying to hit up those stores and get their version. It is definitely worth it based on what I've been able to see thus far. Here we have a lot of the logistics and parking lot buildings surrounding the airport. So one of the things you may or may not notice, just to the right of the screen there, you'll notice that there is a little bit of a terrain issue there going on with the road behind. And again, I'm going to chalk that up just to my version. Here we have a nice little shopping center here. So all of the nearby shopping centers and logistics buildings added along with the airport as well. Very nice. And here we have the airport. Now, one of the things you guys know I'm already going to point out is the road sitting on top of the photoreal terrain. Could have been a little bit more detailed here. This is sort of similar to that of, what's that airport? Off the top of my head. I'm thinking of the Zhevyetsky Moscow scenery. But yeah, this is definitely one of those areas that could have been done a little bit better with hand-drawn roads instead of the photoreal. And here, this looks like, I thought this was actually part of the airport, but I guess this is a car dealership. I'm seeing Jeep, Smart, Mercedes, Dodge, Chrysler. Whenever I'm in Europe, it's funny. The only American cars that I ever see in Europe is like the Jeep Cherokee. That seems to be really like the only popular American car in the whole of Europe. And then you have the random guy that might own like an old muscle car from the 70s or something like that. But for the most part, interesting to see a Chrysler dealership there. The only Chryslers I see are Jeeps. And again, just making note of the this typical Alpine type architecture surrounding the airport. Very nice. Very reminiscent of Alpine, France, Switzerland, and Austria. And here we have the airport logo along with these lovely tails of airliners that frequent the airport. Austrian, Flynicki, TUI, Germanwings actually still up there. I wonder if they've changed that now that Germanwings is no longer an airline, if I'm not mistaken. You can see there's the little First Choice logo. Does First Choice even still exist? We've got Air Berlin, Turkish, Swiss. What is that one? It starts with a what's the name of that airline? I'm drawing a blank on that one. And, of course, Lufthansa at the end. I am drawing a blank. I think it starts with a V. I can't remember. Anyway, I'm sure someone will correct me. And someone is also noting that they have not had any terrain issues in their version, so that's good. I'm happy to hear that. So that just means that could just be with my pre-release version, so no worries there. Happy to hear that there's reports of no terrain issues, so perfect. Happy to hear that. So taking a look at this very accurate-looking custom autogen surrounding the airport. And I really do have to say that this airport is bringing back a lot of nostalgia, a lot of memories from FS9. Just thinking back on flying back with the old G team Salzburg. I remember that big static British 777 that used to sit out in front of the terminal. If you guys that have been around for that long and have had that freeware version, I'm sure you remember that. And really, all of Giani's freeware were really payware quality, and that's why he called it donationware, because I believe there was a hope that people would donate when they downloaded the sceneries for free. Personally, I think it's just better to either make a determination if you're going to go freeware or payware. Because if people download it and they don't pay for it, well, that just kind of reminds me of public radio. They were always saying, well, you should pay for it. You're listening to it. You should pay for it. But you're also offering it for free. So some people are probably not going to pay for it if they can get it for free. Especially if it's given away for free. So I think you got to make a determination, either go freeware or payware. And I do respect and thank all of those developers who still give away quality and decent freewares. That is something that's always very much appreciated, I think, for all of the community. And of course, if you've been following the daily news page, you'll notice a few developers gave away some free things for everyone to enjoy over the holidays. And again, a very special thank you to those developers who did that as well, because a lot of work goes into these projects, whether they be freeware or payware. And so it's always a huge thank you and a wonderful thing when a developer decides to give something away for free. One of the things I would like to see happen is some of our bigger, more well-known developers give away free things from time to time. One of the things I'll note is definitely Orbix. They deliver a lot of payware. They deliver more sceneries as a publisher, I think, than anyone else. It's definitely between them and Aerosoft. I think Orbix is releasing more products, though, than Aerosoft. But I don't know the exact numbers. I should know them, but I don't have them in front of me. But if not, it's certainly close. But one of the things you definitely see from Orbix is definitely a lot of freeware projects that come from them every year. So always great to still get quality freeware, and I don't think anyone will complain on behalf of that. Just working our way around the little parking lot areas here at the airport, one of the things you'll note is lots of lovely little advertisements. Definitely like the canopies there over the parking lots. Lots of little bushes and autogen. So definitely liking the parking lots here. You can see, though, it gets rather abrupt once it runs back into the photoreal, though. So you can see that line there, and then it just kind of jumps right back into the photoreal. And I think a great way to do this would have been to hand draw the entire street there, and that way it can kind of end right at the grass areas on the other opposite side of the street. So just now getting a little bit closer to the ground and seeing some things up close here. Here's one of the airport signs. Police and Airlink. So it definitely looks like there might have been some on-site photography, and if not, then definitely some very good reference photography for the airport. I'll definitely note that this did come as quite a surprise, because obviously none of us were expecting this to happen. So once I got the message from Evgeny, and I don't want to keep saying his name if I'm saying it wrong, because I hate to butcher that, but once I got the email from him and I saw those pictures, the first thought that came to my mind is, oh my God, people are going to go crazy when they see this. And certainly you guys did. Just getting a little bit up close to some of these building textures here, one of the things that I did note in St. Petersburg was I loved the way that he did his glass. No internal modeling from this developer yet, but the way the glass is done is very well done, and is very similar to that, in fact, of Fly Tampa. If you go back and look at Sydney, and it's funny because I just did a flight to Sydney last night in the simulator, and I just love the way the glass was done. If you're not going to go the route of internal modeling, which is something that's very tasking, especially for large airports, one of the big deals is how the glass looks. So I definitely love the way he does his glass. You can see that sort of dynamic reflection there and the texture of the glass, which looks very cool. And at least as it pertains to the control tower, you can see here there is some internal modeling there where you can see through. Oh, got a little bit too close. So no control panels there, no people walking around, but transparent nonetheless. So again, just taking another look at the parking lot area here. The cars, very nice modeled cars, by the way. Very good looking cars, and cars that are definitely the types of vehicles you would see in Europe. And you can see here underneath here by the car park all of these advertisements. There's Mozart, whose music you may or may not be able to hear running in the background. Some advertisements for Austria and Air Berlin. Salzburg. Very nicely done. Again, many pilots may not elect to spend too much time, obviously, in this part of the airfield. But I certainly will call attention to it. So very, very well done here in this area. And again, looking at the curbs here, these little areas where you have vegetation and bushes. Nicely done. This scenery does use a semi-object display engine, but there are no jet bridges at Salzburg. So that's one thing you won't have to concern yourself with. You'll have to use GEX in order to ensure you get air stairs to meet you at your aircraft on arrival. And just taking a look at some of the modeling work done here, which is very accurate, if I do say so myself. And looks like also some application of photoreal terrain in there as well. I see some signs here on the ground. It looks like no parking. And here we have Amadeus, Terminal 2. And again, just want to note the quality of the vegetation. Very nicely done. You can see here there are some fences. There were some areas where I noticed there were no fencing, which was interesting. So I'm not sure how consistent the fencing is going around the airport. But certainly here in these areas here, very nice fencing separating the parking lots from the airport. It looks like there's no lines. I'm not sure. I didn't pull up any Google Earth imagery, but I'm not sure if there's any lines there that should be in this parking lot area. I'm sure there has to be. I don't see any here, though. But again, very well modeled in coloration on the vehicles. Going ahead now and making our way onto the airfield. Actually, there was the hotel. Where's the hotel? That's one thing I missed. Let me turn around really quickly before we make our way onto the airfield. There's a hotel here. That's really cool. Again, has that sort of alpine architecture. I think this is it here. I didn't want to miss that hotel. Yeah, there it is. The airport hotel there. I think I missed it. I don't know if I got it into the scene or not earlier on. There it is. How's that for a hotel? Very nice. And those mountains in the background, the Alps there, do look lovely. So I'm sure as we take a look at Salzburg here, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, well, how about a new version of Innsbruck? Again, I mentioned a little bit earlier on in the stream that The current version of Innsbruck, published by Aerosoft, released by Giani's G team, it doesn't look like any updates are going to be coming for that scenery anytime in the near future, and so it's probably about time that someone else considered developing that airport. I think it's about high time we had a new version of Innsbruck. Innsbruck as well is one of my top 3 airports in the whole of Europe. It is my favorite approach of any other airport in Europe, that's for sure. I love approaching into Innsbruck, coming down in the mountains. I've never been there in real life, but it's certainly on my list. I can only imagine what it must look like looking out on the wing as a passenger and seeing this terrain rise up higher and higher and higher above you. Descending through the mountains and then departing from the airport. And then climbing and just looking out your window and seeing nothing but a giant wall of mountains. It must be a very interesting feeling to experience, looking out your window and seeing just these huge mountains as you're climbing and climbing and climbing, and there's still mountains and still climbing and still mountains, and oh my God, when are we going to get above these mountains? So definitely looking forward to that. Here we have a lovely Austrian Airlines, what appears to be a DC-3. That's got to be probably one of the best static models I have ever seen in my life. Wow, that looks like a user aircraft. That doesn't even look like a static model. I mean, it looks like a user aircraft. Look at the detail on that. Indeed, I think that's the best static model I've seen yet. You've even got the flaps down on there and the ailerons in different positions. That looks like a user aircraft. I mean, you can see the difference between that and the AI models. Definitely a very, very nice looking static aircraft there. And here we have the hangar. Let me just try to tap the sim-object display engine. I don't believe the hangar door is openable, though. No triggerable objects found within 12 kilometers. So that's assuming I installed it properly, of course. Because again, this one for me was an entirely manual install. Taking a look at some of the ramp ground service equipment here, very nicely done. Even the stairs here, this air vehicle incorporates that same glass texture and is also transparent. You can see the reflections on there. Very nice. Intersky was the airline that I didn't mention earlier. Thank you. I just briefly took a look at the laptop. It's kind of hard to read comments and fly around at the same time, so I try to glance over it as often as I can to see some of the comments. Intersky was the other airline that I didn't mention, whose tail was in front of the terminal there. So I'm assuming now that has to be updated, because definitely I think Eurowings, or not Eurowings, but Germanwings is completely gone by now, if I'm not mistaken. Here we have some lovely artwork here in front of the, I believe this is the entrance area, correct? Yes, it is. The entrance to the terminal. With all the welcome signs. Ground textures, of course, looking very good. Never a complaint from this developer. And here we have some more of these lovely air stairs, which are well covered. And animated vehicles on the roadways as well. So whenever I used Innsbruck, there would be those times where I'd be too lazy to fly, and one of the things I always enjoyed with that particular scenery was just sort of flying around in a helicopter. Used to get a lot of fun doing that, playing Mission Impossible, chasing down the trains with the helicopter. Yes, I know, I'm kind of a nerd, but that was always one fun thing to do whenever I was bored. So that's something that I think would have been nice to have in this particular scenery. Not something visible from the airport, though, as with Innsbruck, where you can actually see the trains from the actual airport. And we got to look at the smaller tower, but we actually didn't climb up to the larger tower here. Go ahead and move up here. Are we able to see inside? No, these windows are tinted. So not exactly see-through as a smaller tower, but again, we have these very, very lovely reflections and glass textures. Here you can see these sort of antennas that protrude out from the tower here, and then even there's a little catwalk there as well, which you can see under. So lots of attention to detail there. Taking a look at that glass rendering. And here now taking a look at some of the hangars here on the other side of the airport. And this Airlink building, this building has not changed at all. This is still the same paint and artwork on this particular hangar that's been in existence for several years. I remember this from the old G-Team freeware version of Salzburg. Looks exactly the same, except better quality texturing, of course. And we have some solar panels here on the roofs as well, which I believe is a fairly newer addition. And I do see the fencing running along there, so. You can see some of the hangars, though, do extend out from the ground textures there and kind of protrudes out onto the photoreal. That could have been a little bit better. You can see some of the cloud reflections there on the solar panels also. And taking a look at some of these towers here and these parking positions here. And this is very interesting. I don't think I've seen this before. I'm assuming this is some sort of a GPU unit. That's very interesting. Or are those lights? I guess maybe those are lights. Kind of difficult figuring out what those are. These look like, are those solar panels at the top? No? Very interesting. Not sure what those are. I mean, I imagine they'd be some kind of GPU unit included in there, but not 100% sure what that is. Again, the ground texture's all looking very lovely. You even have some artwork here just above the tunnel. Let's see if I can maneuver us around and take a look at that. A little bit of artwork there greeting folks as they go underneath the tunnel. Here we have some fuel trucks, and there's even a little open hangar there. So this isn't a terribly big airport to cover. Salzburg has always been a small airport. But it's always been a unique airport, and there's something about it that's always attracted me to it. Definitely its location. And it's one of those airports that I hope just never changes. I mean, I know that there are a lot of airports across Europe that are either getting demolished or completely redesigned. And you know, there are certain airports, though, that I just don't want to ever change because the way that they are just makes them special. Salzburg is definitely one of those airports. Amsterdam is another one of those airports where, indeed, it could probably use some pretty major enhancements, but it's one of those airports that I just don't ever want to change because it just is what it is, and that's always what made it so terrific. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is a museum. I think, does Red Bull have one of these hangars? I'm not sure. Or if it's just a museum. I can't remember. I'm sure someone will correct me on that. Loving those textures. I think on the Giani version, I think he did come up with some sort of a transparent way to do this. If I remember that scenery correctly, I think here would have been an excellent opportunity to make this entire dome here more transparent with the glass, and then placement of aircraft inside. It looks good the way it is, but I think that's probably one thing that would have made this a little bit cooler, to be able to have the entire domes just transparent glass with static models inside. That would have been pretty neat. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Going to go ahead now and move over and take a look at some of the night lighting and see if Mozart looks as well at night as he does during the day. This will also be an opportunity for me to go in and take a look at any comments as well. Oh, now it wants to work. Okay. Alrighty then. And let's take a look at some of the night lighting. There's the sun going down. Okay, I might need to go in and change the lighting manually. Oh, there it goes. I was like, when is it going to come on? There it is. Alright, so we'll let that sit for just a minute while I try to catch up on any questions or comments about the scenery here. Just bear with me. I can only go up so high. There was one question before or after the crash if I use window capture or game capture. And that's always going to be game capture, because window capture, the frame rates are a little bit too low when it's trying to capture a window. So yes, always in game capture. That's in regards to the broadcasting software. Oh, so it looks like that is Andrew from Jussim that's tuning in this morning. So Andrew, glad to see you. We are certainly looking forward to your next project. I know I am. And he actually says in a couple of weeks he will have another airport close to Salzburg. And they are almost ready. I think I know what airport that is. So looks like we'll be seeing another Austrian airport coming up in the next few weeks. So looking very much forward to that. I'll be waiting for the email with all the screenshots to share with everyone. He says in a couple of weeks. So very, very good to hear. And FlyDream 2011, please be nice. Thank you. And Evgeny, the developer of the scenery, is back. He is here. And he is asking if there were any questions. One of the questions I did ask earlier was what your first project was that you created and what year that was. Gives us an idea of how long you've been a scenery developer and how long it's taken you to get this good, because it is really, really good. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with me on that. It's funny how whenever developers show up, how people start asking for their favorite airport. Guys, come on. In Cincy, it says Swiss doesn't frequent the airport. Really? I would think that there would be daily flights between Zurich and Geneva to Salzburg. That's interesting. And P3D Chap says that where did it go? Oh, that Transaero used to fly their 747 in here. Yeah, so I mean, for those of you flying your 777s, 747s, Salzburg can definitely handle them. I think at one point, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I believe British Airways did fly a 777 here, or maybe I'm mistaken. And Preferred 13, I'm probably not pronouncing his name right, but he says that the smaller, older tower was removed a few weeks ago. Any chance to remove it in the update? And the developer has replied, and he says, of course, but I decided not to do it now. I like this tower. And I actually have to agree. The tower is not there anymore, but I actually kind of like it. You know, and to me, it's something of a landmark as well. So, you know, maybe at some point he'll go in and offer an option to remove it for those who may not want it. But in my opinion, I think it looks lovely. So in my case, I'll keep it. Not seeing any lights on inside the towers, though. Let me just see if they... Yeah, so it could be that I'm not doing the lighting properly. So what I think I'll do is... Let me see, what time is this? This is 9:12 p.m. These are summer textures. So let's just, I'm going to change it manually here. Give me just one moment, 2100, just to see if any more lights do turn on. Give that a second to load. Just kind of proing through some more comments here. I went on a pretty long tangent. And Preferred 13 says the parking lots are partially gravel and partially asphalt. And Peter D. Chap says, appropriate anniversary to note that December 20th marked 20 years of charter flights from Russia to Salzburg. So could that be perhaps one of the... let's cancel that. There we go. Nope, so there's still no tower lights. So perhaps maybe that's one of the reasons this airport was chosen. To kind of coincide with that anniversary. So a lot of people are already assuming that Innsbruck is the other airport that JSIM is going to release in a couple of weeks. I don't think it's that one. I think it's an airport that's sort of similar to Salzburg, though. No jet bridges. That's if I got it right. Maybe I have it wrong, but I don't think I do. And Peter D. Chep says Germanwings is not completely gone yet. Sorry, just pouring through some of the comments. Enjoy the music. Just looking for anything that stands out. And referring back to that hangar, Preferred 13 says Hangar 7 is Flying Bulls, owned by, oh gosh, how do you pronounce his name? Let's just say the owner of Red Bull. Okay, I knew there was some association between one of those hangars and Red Bull, but I wasn't sure exactly what it was. So very helpful. Thank you very much. and also winter textures. In fact, let me go ahead and switch over to winter now. The developer is reminding me to pull up the winter texture, so let's go ahead and change over to winter. If I remember correctly, I don't think there's a tool for that, right? So if I just take us over to winter, that should work. Hopefully. We'll find out in just a moment. Your screen's going to go dark for a minute, folks. I'm still here. Just going to change over to the winter texture, so give me just a few moments here. And I need to bring the daylight up a little bit as well because of winter. And then we can see those lovely winter ground textures as well. And Andre from JSim is also noting anyone who can assist. As far as pictures and things like that, definitely get in contact with JSim. So, hopefully, let's see. So I did do the proper night lighting going through the menu as opposed to using the time preview. So we'll see if the rest of the lights do show up. We'll find out here in just a second. There's some guesses there from Klagenfurt, Linz, or Graz. We'll see. Bossy says he'd prefer Klagenfurt. I would prefer Klagenfurt as well. And Compton Gumbo is saying, wasn't Graz announced by FSDG earlier this year? I don't know. Let's see here. I guess I need to change it a little bit further. I see there's taxi lights here. We're in the winter textures now. And definitely all the runway textures are on, but not the building textures yet. Let's see here. Let's try this again. Time and season. Let's go to, let's see, 4. Let's see if 4:30 works. Ah, there we go. So yeah, I don't see the towers lit up. Everything else has lighting, but I just don't see any lighting on those towers. I can see here these lights here. Okay, so that's what these are. They're lights. Very nice too, the way those are lit. So the only lighting I don't see is there's a couple of buildings back here. Well, at least this building here, this is glass. I don't see that if that's lit up or not. A couple of buildings there in the towers. But again, just want to remind everyone this is a pre-release version, so everything may not look exact. Unfortunately, it takes SimMarket too long to release products for these previews. And they very rarely get it on the same day. Sometimes it takes them several days, and I wish they were faster with that because obviously people want to see these things right away. And I wish they were a little bit more intuitive to that sort of thing, but unfortunately they're not. So we had to go with a version that is not official and had to be manually installed. So I'll just echo again my disclaimer that anything you see here should not reflect in your version if there's any discrepancies. All right, just going to try to quickly make my last bout through the comments here. And prefer to saying on most of the left hanger and on Terminal 2, there is direct lighting on the apron. Yeah, I do see the lighting on the apron, but I don't see lighting emitting from the building in front of it. And I do believe, or maybe that's just a hanger. Is that like a glass hanger? Maybe that's what it is. Let's go ahead and take off and take a look. So there might have been some opportunity here to put some lighting here on this part, perhaps. I know that control towers at night usually use a sort of tint, so you don't really see light coming from the control towers very much. So that part, it's definitely understandable. Taking a look at, wow, we have some lovely street lights here, all nicely lit up, and including some of the surrounding buildings. Those mountains there are looking very lovely there in the background. And we can see here on top of the photo reel, the lights leaving nice little halos on the ground underneath. Salzburg Airport logo and all of the vertical stabilizers there sitting out in front of the car park, looking very nice and well lit at night. By the way, what does it take for an airline to get their logo on one of these? Do the airlines pay for this as a form of advertisement? What qualifies an airline to have their logo up here? That would be a very good question. One airline logo that I definitely do not see up here is Lauda. Fly Niki is there. Of course, Lauda was an airline that belonged to the race car driver Niki Lauda until the airline was taken away from him. I think he got voted off the board or something like that, but they basically took his airline away from him. And so he basically said, screw you, I'll just create another airline, and created Fly Niki. I remember Lauda once flew a charter 777 flight to LAX back in 1996, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember the flight attendants being some of the most attractive looking flight attendants I think I've seen. And I remember thinking, why don't they fly here? Neither Austrian or any really. We don't get any direct flights between Los Angeles and Austria. Wish we did. I think it would provide decent competition for flights going to Switzerland, that's for sure, and Germany for that matter. But no direct flights. It'd be nice to see Austrian or Lauda. I'm pretty sure Lauda does still exist, though, right? I think they do. I might even be calling that one wrong as well. I'm not completely sure. So you can look at one of these lights here above the hangar. Look at the way that light shoots the reflection on top of the hangar and then spills it out on the ground. That's very realistic. So in this hangar, because it uses glass, it would have been nice to see that lit from the inside, because that's definitely glass there. So that's why at night it just looks a little bit too dark. So nice ramp reflections in front of it. Would have been nice to see it lit from the inside. Not internal modeling, but just lit up nonetheless. And we do have some volumetric lighting here. And in your installer, even though I don't have an installer, but in your installer, I do believe that there is an option for prepared version 3.1. So if you're using prepared, you do get that full compatibility. Look at that. Look at those halos, the way they shine on the ground like that. That is amazing. So I'm guessing the way these works is these are the lights here. The lights fire upward and reflect off of this little shield here, which then shines the lights back on the ground. It looks like that's how that works. That's a very interesting concept. Those look like large halogen bulbs. That's what that appears to be. Look at how that's nice. I've seen some nice night lighting in my time, but I don't think I've ever seen night lighting shine directly down on the ground like that. I don't know if I've seen that before. Usually the light sort of, that sort of volumetric sort of goes down like halfway. But I've never seen it shine all the way down to the ground like that before. That is pretty neat. And depending on your eye point angle will determine how you can see some of that lighting there. Look at that. So that is very cool. I like that. And now we have our standard type lighting here. We'll take a look at one of these. So the way these lights are positioned here, I don't think I see, yeah, so these lights are a little bit different. You don't actually see the halo going all the way to the ground. So some of these lights really are specific. That's lovely. Look at that. One thing I would like to see, and I hope that the guys at Lockheed Martin are considering this, but one thing I would love to see is when lights actually light up the aircraft objects as well. So either whether it be AI traffic or rather it be user aircraft, when you go underneath a light, you actually see that light shine on the aircraft itself. It always looks so weird when you see how well the ramps and everything are lit up, and then the aircraft is sitting right underneath it, but completely dark. By the way, is Austrian still flying these Fokkers? Because I want to try to get over to Europe and fly on one of these things before they go away. I've never flown on one before, and it's an aircraft that I'm certainly crazy about. And that would be a very good question. I've always been saying that I think Quality Wings should take over the Fokker project from Digital Aviation and implement a full virtual cockpit for it. I think that would blow a lot of people's minds. But Lionheart Creations developing a Fokker, so I think I'll have some fun with that. But it's going to be sort of a light sort of thing, so don't expect an NGX level type rendition there. So you can look at some of these taxi lights and runway lighting. All custom, of course, and very well done. Very nice the way that lighting is done there. There's an aircraft on approach way out there over the mountains in the distance. Flying over the perimeter fence here. Let's take a look and see if there's any approach lighting. And I'll just spin us around. And there we do. Yes, we have some approach lights there. Doesn't look like they go too far out from the threshold, though. But just looking down the approach there. Looks like those lights would go out a little bit further. Let me just get a little bit closer to the ground here. Maybe that's as far as they go. I think there's a little rope that goes underneath there. So there's your approach lights. Very nicely done. And again, all completely custom, which we like. That's something we love to see. Oh, and the developer is saying that Terminal 2 actually has no lighting, so there you go. There you have it. There is no lighting there in real life, so therefore not in the simulator. It's always helpful when developers come in one means or another to correct me. So definitely appreciate that. Looking over here at the museum, I'm assuming that this late at night, maybe the museum is closed. Or these hangars anyway. No lighting there. But we do have these very lovely little lights here that light up the ramp. I love the way these lights were done. I really, really do like that. That's really cool. And let's make our way over to the terminal, or rather to the hangars. And I see there's a lot of comments and questions in there, and I will get to those very shortly. Oh, I forgot my gear. I forgot my lights, too. Very lovely the way the lighting was done on these hangars. The night lighting here is really, really impressive. I think the control towers could have had a little bit of something extra to be able to see them, but the smaller control tower obviously no longer in use. I don't know if in real life if they have any light splashing on that tower to kind of make it a little bit more visible at night or not, but they look like two shadows there in the night. But nevertheless, the night lighting here is really super impressive, and I remember being really impressed with the night lighting with St. Petersburg as well. Very lovely night lighting. Just taking a look at who our visitor is coming in here. Oh, that's a business jet. Okay. So some of these houses, too, don't appear to be lit up at night as well. You have these little buildings here along the runway. Not seeing any lighting on these homes. Some of these other houses do seem to have some light in them, though. A little bit further out. As well as our lovely Alpine-esque hotel. The airport hotel. And all of the V-stabs lit at night as well. Again, very nice. So, folks, that is pretty much it in a nutshell. I'm going to change back to some daylighting here so we can take a look at the snow textures. We can see some of these very lovely snow textures here that were done in the scenery. Very nice. There we go. And I'll just pause it there for a second so I can catch up on any comments that anyone has as we start to conclude today's stream. If anyone has any questions for the developers that are here in the chat or anything for me, now would be the time to ask. Someone did ask if the scenery was compatible with the Austrian Alps photoreal scenery. I think that's through Aerosoft. That's a good question. Just pouring through comments here. But now I'd go so far as to say that flight simulation is stronger today than it has ever been. We have more developers now than we've ever had, and more releases month after month, year after year than we've ever had. And the quality just keeps getting better and bigger. So I'd like to tip my hat off to Evgeny and his team. If there really is a team, I know a lot of developers do tend to work alone, but I do know that he does work well with other developers as well, other Russian developers. So whether it's just him or if it was a team, I definitely want to extend my congratulations of a job well done. I hope you make lots and lots of money, and I definitely look forward to the next scenery project, whatever that's going to be. Want to apologize again for the beginning of the stream. Things started off really rough, as they sometimes do. And of course, we did have a crash with the broadcasting software, but luckily the broadcaster itself did not cut out. I want to thank all of you for your patience as well, as usually these streams are not that easy to do. It's not as easy as it might look, and it takes quite a bit of time setting up and getting these things running. So for all of you who are patient and sat through it, I definitely appreciate it. So before we close out, let's go ahead and head on over to Sim Market and take a look at what this scenery is going to cost you. And we'll head over to the post since we have that direct link there. Let's take a look at what the price is. So we are looking at 20 euros, about roughly a little bit under 21 euros. In US dollars, that's going to be about $23 roughly. So I think that's a very, very fair and affordable price. And really, I think they could have fetched a lot more than that, but certainly we don't want to give them any ideas. But nevertheless, terrific price for this scenery. And we'll take just a quick look at some of the features here. Austria's largest regional airport is centered at the heart of the Alps near the center of Salzburg, the fourth largest Austrian city. The airport is named after Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and is located 1.7 nautical miles west-southwest from the center of Salzburg and 2 kilometers from the Austrian-German border. Features include detailed airport objects and vehicles, animated airport vehicles, night environment, custom runway and taxiway lights, photorealistic textures on the airport buildings, custom textured taxiways, runway and apron, hand-placed autogen, custom surroundings including the historic city center, reflection glass and bump maps. Normal map or depth map textures are used in FSX for best appearance. Custom reflection map. Reflection map is used for setting what should be seen in window reflection. Baked shadows on the textures, completely automatic change of seasons, so there is no need for a season tool. I just want to echo that. No need for a season tool. Developers, we hate season tools. Advanced lighting system. The lights are automatically turned on depending on weather conditions. Automatic season change for vegetation. Photo background as well. Friendly frames and low VAS usage. Realistic reflections during rain for prepared version 3.1. We actually didn't see that. Realistic reflections during rain. Let's turn on some rain just really quickly. Let's see, weather. We'll just go with gray and rainy. And let's see if we can take a quick look at those textures before we end today. Always want to make sure we take a quick look at the product page so you guys know where to go and where to find it, because what point would it be to go through all of this if you don't know where to get it? So let's just take a quick look, if we can, at some of those realistic water reflections there that they noted. And I can actually see it coming into view as well. I wish more developers would actually implement this in their sceneries, having that wet texture look. If you look down at the runway, you can see the cloud reflections there. And that is awesome. Look at that. So in prepared version 3.1, you now get the actual realistic reflections of what's going on. And this looks really neat. This looks really, really cool. I don't know. Well, of course, hopefully you guys can see what I'm seeing here. Take a look at the ramp. Look at that. That is pretty cool. I don't think I would ever approach this airport now unless it's raining. Look at those textures. Wow. That is amazing. You guys, any of you guys watching cannot say that that does not look freaking cool. Just get a little bit closer here to the ground. And so what it's reflecting is the actual environment. I'll just turn this around here a little bit, get that mountain there, as you can see it there. And again, you still have these lovely light reflections here on the ground as well, which also look good in the wet rain. Oh, geez, that looks amazing. Wow. I am just so impressed with this airport. I am very much impressed. So, if anyone is looking for the guy behind AirDeal EX seal of approval to go out and buy the scenery, go buy it right now. And by all means, don't take my word for it. I think you've seen everything that I've seen here today, and this should be more than enough for you to determine that you need this in your life. Look at that. Very well done. I don't know what Digital Design is working on for the next airport, but whatever it is, I just know that I want it. That is for sure. Wow, what an amazing, well done job here. Well, I can only sing praises so much. It is now up to you to support your development community and support your developers and go out and purchase their products. Please do not pirate, and please, please help them stay in business. Help them pay the bills and keep scenery development alive, because I'm sure many of you, you count on this. This is your hobby. It's very important to all of you. I hit the pause button there, by the way. It is important to all of you, and so it's important that we support our development community. So head on over to the Sim Market and purchase your copy of Salzburg today. I'm just going to do one final check to see if there are any other questions or comments about the scenery. Other than that, I hope to hear more of your feedback on AirDeal EX for those of you who purchased it. I hope to hear more feedback from you. Very well done. And I'm sure now, if none of you have ever heard of Digital Design, who's now made their way out of Russia and into Western Europe, they're getting ready to take over the world here in Flight Simulator. And I'm sure it's something that's going to be very exciting for many, many people. So make sure you mark down Digital Design in your, however you keep track of scenery development, because these guys are, Evgeny is doing a terrific job, and he's going to be a force to reckon with, I'm sure, in the coming years. So you want to put him on your calendars and continue to follow him as well. Oh, and he's telling me to set max reflections and settings. Okay, hang on a second. Evgeny is telling me to set maximum water. I guess that's in water. Okay, let me do that. You're probably going to look at a blank screen here for just a second. We're going to set everything to maximum. All right, so this is as maximum as it gets. So now the reflections are now set to 100%. Uh-oh, what's going on there? It looks like some textures are still loading. Ah, there we go. So I usually set mines to medium, which is sort of right along the middle. But this is now 100% reflections here. And let me just go back and check one more time. Let me just make sure everything, whatever reflections, sim objects, clouds, terrain, vegetation. Let's see. Yep, I think that's everything. And P3D Chub says he's glad he went for P3D and not the FSX Theme Edition. Jordan is asking, do I have to enable dynamic reflections to see surface reflections like this? No, I'll tell you guys what I have on right now. And maybe this is good for the developers as well, so you can see what it is I'm doing here. Let's go back to desktop view, and I'll pull up here. So you guys should be able to see that. I'm going to go into my settings really quickly so you can see where we're at here. Anisotropic 16 times, multi-sampling anti-aliasing is at 8, FX anti-aliasing is on, texture resolution is 4096, my screen resolution is 2560 by 1600. For the scenery, level of detail radius I set at ultra, tessellation factor high, 1 meter for mesh resolution for this scenery in order for the mesh to show up properly, texture resolution at 15. And then with water, right now I have it set for ultra and everything is on here. As far as lighting goes, I don't think this has anything to do with that reflection there and weather. And that's pretty much it. So there's really nothing else that I can set for any further reflections or anything like that. So it should give you a pretty good idea of how mines are set up there. But again, I just changed it over to maximum. But it doesn't have to be set to maximum. I had it set at medium, and I still got some nice reflections. So I'm not sure if, for example, if we're supposed to see the reflection of the terminal on the ground as well. So if that's not showing up, then maybe that's an issue with my version. So hopefully SimMarket will deliver that later on. And then what I'll go on and do is create some screenshots and stuff of it. But ultimately, yeah, that's about it. So I don't know, am I supposed to be seeing the terminal reflection in the ground? I'm not seeing it. Ouch. That hurt. So I don't know if that's maybe a missing reflection there. But otherwise, folks, terrific scenery. So go out and get your version today on SimMarket. And as for me, this has been, wow, how long have we been streaming here? It's an hour and 58 minutes. Hopefully that's an hour and 58 minutes worth to show you guys that this is definitely a scenery that is worth your time. And I certainly hope you'll enjoy it. It's been a terrific 2015 serving you folks. It's been a great year. And I'm really looking forward to an even better 2016. So to all of our developers out there who have worked so hard to serve us this year, and to the entire community who has shown their support for our developers, of course, it is something that is much appreciated. And really, really glad that all of you could support our developers. And as always, stick with Air Daily X for everything you need. I'm out of here. Enjoy the Mozart.